Hello everyone. This time I would like to share with you a surprising truth about one of the most influential figures in European history, Karl the Great. In your history textbooks, you probably learned about Karl the Great as the heroic king of the Frankish kingdom, and a leading figure in the unification of Europe. Certainly, he was a great leader who unified the vast territory stretching from present-day France to Germany and Italy and revived learning and the arts between the 8th and 9th centuries. But in fact, there are many very human and interesting aspects to him that you won't find in textbooks. Today, we will be bringing you plenty of such unexpected truths, along with the results of the latest historical research. As always, please subscribe and like our channel. Now, let's get to know the true and unknown face of Karl the Great. Chapter 1. The truth about the handsome emperor. Let us begin with the appearance of Karl the Great. Recent research has revealed a fact that turns the image many people have of him as a dignified middle-aged emperor on its head by a full 180 degrees. The first thing that is surprising is his height. According to Einhard's biography of Karl the Great was 7 times taller than his own foot. According to the measurement method used at the time, he was a whopping 2.01 meters tall. He was as tall as a modern basketball player. Moreover, the owner of such a huge stature was surprisingly versatile in sports. He was especially fond of swimming, and he used to swim every day in the hot springs of Aachen with his entourage of more than 100 people in his family. Imagine a giant over 2 meters tall frolicking in a hot spring with a large entourage. It is truly a medieval version of a spa party. Even more interesting is his obsession with his appearance. Although he is generally depicted in portraits with a magnificent beard, he actually hated beards. He shaved every day without fail to maintain a clean-shaven appearance. There is also an interesting record of his voice. He had a very high voice, which is hard to imagine from his giant-like physique. There is even a record that when he began speaking at a court ceremony, his distinctive voice caused the audience to be quiet for a moment. He also had his own particular style of dress. He basically preferred the traditional dress of the Franks, which was a linen shirt, silk vest, and blue cloak. On special holidays, however, he would sometimes dress in a luxurious, jeweled costume. However, he generally preferred to dress modestly, especially when foreign envoys showed up in flashy outfits, and sometimes he would intentionally appear in plain clothes to confuse them. Also noteworthy is his obsession with keeping in shape. He never missed his daily exercise, especially horseback riding and hunting, which were his favorite exercises. He encouraged his sons to exercise as well, sometimes staying up late at night hunting. In a way, he could be considered a forerunner of today's fitness enthusiasts. Chapter 2. Surprising educational reforms. Next, I would like to talk about a surprising aspect of Karl the Great's love of learning. The cultural revival movement called the Carolingian Renaissance that he led is easily mentioned in textbooks. But behind it all, there was a big influence of his own learning geek side. Particularly interesting is his learning method. In fact, Karl the Great himself was not very good at reading and writing. Like most European royalty of the time, he did not receive a full-fledged education at an early age. But he did have an uncommon appetite for knowledge. So he devised a learning system that is like an audiobook today. He always had scholars reading and listening to his books, even during meals. He especially liked to listen to St. Augustine's The Kingdom of God, and the writings of Cicero. Sometimes he would be so absorbed in reading that his meals would go cold. What is even more surprising is that he began to study letters in earnest at the age of 47. It is recorded that he kept a letter practice board by his bedside and always practiced before going to bed. Imagine this. The emperor of the largest empire in Europe practicing his letters as hard as a child. His passion for learning is also evident in his reform of the educational system. He established a court school at the court and educated not only his own children but also those of the nobility. The curriculum included what he called the 7 liberal subjects: grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, and music. Particularly interesting is his educational policy. He emphasized practical learning, not mere memorization. For example, in his arithmetic classes he used actual architectural blueprints, and in his astronomy classes he observed the night sky. This is truly a forerunner of modern active learning. He also made a strong commitment to multilingual education. He himself understood Latin, Germanic, and Greek, and was especially fluent in Latin. Writing, however, was not his strong suit until the end, and he was always accompanied by several scribes. Furthermore, he was also very enthusiastic about the maintenance of libraries. He ordered monasteries around the country to collect and copy ancient writings, and collected them in the court library. This became an important foundation for the later cultural revival in Europe. Chapter 3. Unknown family relationships. Now we will take the topic a little further and talk about Karl the Great's complicated family relationships. He had 4 full wives and 6 common-law wives during his lifetime. As a result, he had a whopping 10 sons and 8 daughters. This is an astonishing number in today's terms, but it was not unusual for royalty at that time. What is particularly interesting is his attitude toward his daughters. Karl the Great loved his daughters very much. He kept them close to him at all times in the court, provided them with the highest standard of education, and guaranteed them a life of luxury. However, his expression of affection was characterized by a trait unthinkable in our time. It was that he did not allow his daughters to marry at all. At that time, daughters of royalty were usually used as pawns in political marriages. However, Karl the Great refused all suitors because he did not want to give up his beloved daughters. As a result, his daughters remained unmarried and living at court well into their 30s and 40s. But the human heart is free. One after another, the daughters began to have clandestine romantic relationships. Especially famous is the love affair between the eldest daughter, Lotrude, and the court clerk. When Karl the Great learned of their relationship, he was furious and banished the clerk, but they already had a child together. Similar scandals happened to other daughters one after another, and the court was turned into a stage for romantic dramas. Interestingly, however, Karl the Great was tolerant of his grandchildren. Records show that he officially recognized his daughters' illegitimate grandchildren and provided them with sufficient education and property. He was indeed a strict father and a kind grandfather at the same time. His educational policy toward his sons was also interesting. From an early age, he wanted his sons to learn not only political and military affairs, but also to acquire one skill at a time. Karl, the eldest, learned architecture, Pippin, music, and Ludwig, horticulture. It is like a modern-day learning program. He also valued spending time with his family very highly. In particular, meal times were strictly observed, and it is recorded that even when he had important political duties to attend to, he gave priority to meals with his family. During meals, the family would engage in lively discussions while listening to readings by the scholars I mentioned earlier. Chapter 4. Surprising daily lifestyle and eating habits. Next, I will discuss Karl the Great's surprising lifestyle. His diet, in particular, is full of surprises for us today. First of all, he was a thoroughly temperate man. He basically ate only one meal a day. And the time was set for noon. However, the amount of food he consumed was extraordinary. It is recorded that he ate as many as 4 whole roasted animal meats in a single meal. They were especially fond of wild boar, sheep, and goat meat. Above all, he was famous for eating large quantities of goat cheese. In fact, he even enacted a law called the cheese manufacturing law. The law stipulated in great detail everything from cheese production methods to preservation methods. He was truly a cheese lover of the Middle Ages. However, there is a surprising aspect to this gluttony. The Christian fasting period was very strictly observed. During the fasting period, he avoided all meat and ate only bread and vegetables. Sometimes his fasting was so severe that he became ill, and his physician often advised him to loosen his fasting a little more. He was also very particular about the manner in which he ate. Chatting during meals was forbidden, and instead he made it a practice to listen to readings from history or philosophy books. He also imposed strict hygiene on his cooks and mercilessly dismissed them at the slightest sign of uncleanliness. Even more interesting is his sleeping habits. He would wake up 2 or 3 times during the night, and each time he would get up to read or write. He also took naps as part of his daily routine, always taking an hour or 2 after eating. This habit may have been a precursor to what we call a power nap today. He also had his own particular style of dress. Although he usually preferred simple clothing, he made an exception for his nightgown. He loved silk sheets and fine fur blankets, and he had a special concern for the comfort of his bedroom. He also adopted the system of a mobile court. That is, he did not have a fixed capital, but always moved around the territory as he ruled. The distance he traveled in a year sometimes amounted to several thousand kilometers, and he always carried his entire family and a large number of books with him. In modern terms, this would be called a mobile court, as opposed to a mobile office. How was it? In this issue, we have introduced the unexpected true face of Karl the Great, which is not included in history textbooks. He is a giant of over 2 meters and has a high voice. He was not good at reading and writing, but had a thirst for knowledge that was greater than others. A father who loves his daughters too much to let them marry. He eats 1 meal a day, but the amount of food he eats is several times larger than that of modern people. By learning various unexpected facts, I think you may have felt that Karl the Great was a more familiar figure to you. Thank you for watching to the end. If you found this video interesting, please subscribe to our channel and click the good button. See you next time.